It just looked so freaking cold last night on Monday Night Football. It looked so miserable, freaking cold.
Couldn't have been fun as a fan. Couldn't have been fun to play in. Like, no thanks.
You know, Irv does not call that football weather.
I agree with him. That's why people are like, oh, the Super Bowl should be played in games like, why?
Well, weather is removed as a factor for the Super Bowl.
As you know.
I don't know, because it's a factor all year round, and you're removing it. It's kind of like removing punts from college football overtime. You know what I mean? Like, that's all game long. There's a factor that is crucial, and as a matter of fact, you roster your team potentially to benefit that. I mean, Iowa had a punter.
But it's an advantage for one team or the other.
No, I understand that, but that's part of competition, is that your team might be better here, and then you have to counter it there. So you're removing an aspect of the game that is important for all four quarters until you get to overtime, and then suddenly it doesn't matter.
Totally with you. I'm talking about the Super Bowl.
Well, what I'm saying is, for the Super Bowl, all year long, weather is a factor. Certainly, you can't sit here and say Green Bay, it's not to their advantage to have everybody come to their house.
No,
right?
But
or
for a Super Bowl...
Look at you.
There's no home field in the Super Bowl, so there shouldn't be a home field advantage.
It's a neutral weather game. You go to a site where it's neutral, a dome where it's neutral.
It should always, Super Bowl
which
should
is why
always be in the dome.
NFL rolled the dice that year by putting it in New Jersey.
Yeah, that wasn't.
And it turned out to be zero factor, because it was
cold.
Lows. No, it was not. It was low 60s. It was if you remember, all week long, it was like nose hairs bonding together in your body cold all week long. And then the weekend came, and it got unseasonably warm. It was like kickoff temperature for the Super Bowl was high 50s, I think.
Hold on, I'm
and then the next day, a blizzard hit, and nobody could get out of town.
It snowed the next day.
That was when the league rolled the dice. And then, of course, if you put the Super Bowl in South Florida, you're rolling the dice, too.
It was 49 degrees.
If you remember, the great halftime, Prince was
Purple Rain.
They're like, you sure you want to go out there? Because it's raining. And he said, can you make it rain harder? Was his supposed response.
Yeah.
That's why it should only be in a dome. There shouldn't be a home field. There's the edge. We want both teams operating at the absolute peak.
I'm another person who only wants it in like three places
for the Super Bowl.
If I had
New
my
Orleans,
druthers,
Miami,
the best place for it, best place for any football game. If I had to, push comes to shove, back here in our terrestrial radio audience, and while you were away, we were sitting here on Peacock talking about last night's weather and what's the ideal condition for a football game. My ideal spot for a football game. Okay, this is interesting. I'm saying this because we just had Joel Klatt on, and I'm like, when the snow is coming down and Michigan's in the tunnel in their home blues, and then out comes Ohio State in their road whites and scarlet and gray and all that stuff, and the snow's coming down, I got goosebumps.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
Like, this is what college football is all about. But you would prefer to see a football game played in zero weather conditions, and it's just, hat on hat, game plan on game plan, roster against roster.
I prefer the Super Bowl.
Or for a national championship game, a national championship semifinal. Like removing weather from the equation, which is odd because the entire rest of the football year, weather is absolutely inserted into the equation all the time. And that's the beauty of football. In baseball, it's just like, oh gosh, it's raining, we got to stop playing. Oh God, and nothing softer in any sport, with all due respect, than a baseball pitcher reaching base and for some reason needing a jacket.
Keep the arm warm.
It's like growing up. It's growing up remembering in my basement it was cold. My mom needed an Afghan.
Yeah.
Got
to keep that arm warm.
You know what I mean? Like you reach base and I need that that jacket. Your pitcher running the bases, you need a jacket. It was just so. It's still stupid. I saw in the World Series this year. I'm like, this is going to be. The past coming up soon. You won't see it anymore.
Well, you're not going to see a pitcher on base in a jacket. Yeah,
so, no, put it all together, though. For football, to me, the best weather conditions, the best place you could play anything is in the state of California, where kickoff is like the Super Bowl, mid-afternoon.
Yep.
Okay. And it's like when you go into a movie theater. When you sit down, right, the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Rose Bowl. I grew up seeing a Rose Bowl.
Sunsets.
Okay. Exactly. Where it starts, like you go in a movie theater or you go see a play, the lights are on when you sit, right? And then the lights go down. And that's when the, attention gets paid to the stage and the drama gets heightened. Yeah. So a Rose Bowl, a national championship game, or a Super Bowl played in California, it starts in the sun and it ends in the dark.
Perfect.
And the sun sets and it's part of the whole day. And that's what, honestly, watching Rose Bowls in my basement in New York City in Staten Island, I'll say it, okay, it's New York City. In Staten Island, New York, that, across from 3 bridges that attach to New Jersey. That I'll give you what you want sometimes, gents. Okay, that it made me want to live in Southern California, watching Rose Bowls.
Oh yeah.
And the first Michigan game I ever watched, after as I told you, I got in early to Michigan in December of '85. I watched Nebraska and Michigan in a Rose Bowl, and I'm like, oh God, this is what it's all about.
Playing in his first
but last night it was kind of wild to see how can you adjust. And the Patriots are like, we're going to run it for 222 yards. We're going to run it 46 times. That's what we're going to do.
But if they were to hold a Super Bowl in Buffalo and those were the conditions, it would be awful.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
I would not have.
It would be a shame. It's just like all year long we're playing our games. It's time to play 4 quarters to decide a championship. And it's affected by the weather. That's just
and the idea of the Super Bowl.
Then why don't we play all those games? So then why is it fine to affect regular season games with the weather, but not the ultimate?
Because
last night was a huge game. It was potentially for the AFC Championship,
and that should have been a home field advantage for the home team, but it wasn't because they only can do one part. That part of their game it doesn't.
Got to build their roster better, man.
Exactly. So it's a home field advantage for the regular season and the playoffs. That's why you play those games. That's why you adjust to the elements of your home stadium.
Right.
But in a Super Bowl, for all the marbles, we need to see both teams operating way up here. And so it can only be done in a neutral site and a neutral weather.
Neutral weather, neutral site.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Mr. Central Pennsylvania over there?
I mean, it's got to be optimal conditions, right? It has to be.
Really?
I think so. It's the only really true
I just find it so funny that we talk about, we look
but there's
back,
not
we see
supposed
the
to be
ice
an
bowl,
advantage.
we
A team
see the
isn't
freezer
supposed to have an
bowl.
advantage in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean,
we look back at all those great moments in the history of the NFL.
Yeah,
they have nicknames, but when it comes to the Super Bowl, we don't want any part of it.
But the NFC and AFC championships are played like that, which kind of says, why can't the Super Bowl be played like that?
Why?
Those games are, to me,
they're championship
are
games.
championship games just as important to the teams that are playing in them that almost make the Super Bowl.
They're important to the 1 seed. So whoever has the home field advantage, that's why they worked all year. That's why they were the best team in the league to get that home field advantage because they built their team around having that advantage in their own stadium. I mean, now you get the 2 best teams in each conference.
The NFL is the only sport that removes the championship round to a neutral site.
Yeah.
Only one.
Yeah, well, there's
only one. Everyone else is just like, you've got the best record in the regular season, you get the extra game if there's a 7th.
Yeah, but there is one. You get one shot.
Unless you're Tampa Bay.
One shot at the Super Bowl. So you want to give everybody the most optimal conditions.
It's not a 7-week series, Super Bowl series.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.